then he's doing all this that has been extremely bad for the space.
All right, Mike, I got to make this quick because I'm headed off to the crypto summit hosted by Donald Trump.
Me too. Yeah. I'm going to be there too.
It's Friday, so we have the summit coming up. And the big news is the Bitcoin strategic reserve. So a lot of details to unpack on that. Plus, where do all the altcoins fit into all of this? Sui's in the news and TikTok as well. Do we need to break into a dance, Mike?
Yeah, let's put this video on there and we'll see where it goes. Maybe we go on chain.
On chain TikTok, let's do it. Yeah. Trump originally announced the U.S. crypto reserve on Truth Social on Sunday, and the big news spread like wildfire on Sunday, but it really just turned into a Trump and dump. I mean, starting Monday, everything just tanked. And so far, it seems like from a macro perspective, we're not doing well. From a crypto perspective, things are looking pretty good. I mean, this is like complete irony of what we've been experiencing last few months.
Yeah, man. I mean, everything's so uncertain. Everything, you just don't know what's going to happen. And then, investors don't like that, right? All right. So starting with this, the announcement of the original announcement of the reserve on Sunday, right? Trump posted on Truth Social that there's going to be a reserve, and US-based coins like XRP and Ripple, ADA of Cardano, and Sol of Solana would be included, right? And then only later did he add, I love Bitcoin, ETH, they'll be part of it as well. And just people are just losing their shit, right? Like, there's no clarity to it. It's just like shooting from the hip. And we did finally get clarity last night. Again, we're recording this on Friday, March 7th. And I think what we got last night is great. It's actually really, really good. The problem is like how we got there, right? It was just like a shitstorm of unclarity. And then now we finally get clarity, right? So like, we'll dig into exactly the kind of parameters of the strategic Bitcoin reserve, as well as the U.S. digital asset stockpile, which are two, kind of obviously related, but two different things. But just like the process of us getting there, it just has this cloud of uncertainty that investors don't like. And I don't know. I just think people don't trust what's being said anymore. And that's why you saw the market kind of dump after even yet last night when there was some clarity. Anyway, that's my thought. Let's go. We can dig into the details now.
So real quick, before we dive into the strategic reserve and the altcoins and that whole debate, what needs to be included, what not. For some reason, I feel like this is part of there's a little bit of manipulation happening here, right?
A little?
I think that, yeah, there's a little bit of uncertainty that is intentional in order to create fear in the market. Because reality is, over a long period of time, we've been overheated. And so we're kind of in this phase of we're overheated, but the economy is still not doing great. And what we know from Trump is that he loves a red hot market. And the way to create that is to decrease the interest rates, increase the debt ceiling, and having tariffs in place, creating more unemployment is his best shot at doing that. These are the things that he can control, right? This is like his way of twisting Jerome Powell's arm into, look, one way or another, I'm going to get it my way. You're going to decrease these rates so that way we can go parabolic. I think in some ways, without actually saying that, that's what he's doing. So from a macro perspective, I think that's what's happening.
I've seen some speculation around that approach, right? Like trying to force Powell's hand to cut interest rates. But it's kind of like treating your sprained ankle by chopping off your foot. You're going to tank the economy just so rates can go down, and then the economy kind of comes back up because of those rates. It's just again, I'm not a macroeconomist. I understand this a little bit, but there's a lot of mechanisms that may or may not work. But I just haven't seen a lot of economic data that this approach works. But what is working is that it is causing a lot of of fear and uncertainty in, both the crypto markets, in the stock markets, obviously the job market, with, a lot of the federal government staff getting cut, and then how that, kind of impacts, local economies. And, you look at the tariffs and, look at how, Canada and Mexico, are kind of retaliating, and now those tariffs are paused. The U.S. tariffs on those two countries are paused, right? It's just like, you just don't know what's going to happen next, and investors hate that.
They do. And that's why we're seeing this cooling off in the market. Again, it's not something that I personally want to see. I don't think anybody wants to see that. But in terms of something that Benjamin Cohen talks about, how we respect the guy for his like on-chain analytics, and just his technical analysis. He always talks about how ETH needs to go home. So as bad as it's doing, it probably needs to go down even more in order for us to have like the altcoin season that we're all accustomed to having, this latter part of the bull run. But nonetheless, I mean, it seems like the good news that are happening within the cryptocurrency space is not necessarily trickling into just like real price movement. And a lot of that has to do what's happening on the macro side, which I think is just temporary discomfort for all of us. But let's stick to the crypto side of things, because there are a lot of great things that are happening there, Mike. We just talked about the strategic Bitcoin reserve. So the key points here are the US would not liquidate any Bitcoin held in the reserve, and they're going to treat it as a store of value. But they're also not going to be purchasing any more Bitcoin, which is interesting. The total value is around 17 billion.
Well, they said that they could purchase it as long as it's like budget neutral, right? Where they won't be using additional taxpayer money to buy more Bitcoin, but they may have to liquidate some other asset, something along those lines, where, Secretaries of Treasury and Commerce, they'll need to get some authorization to purchase more Bitcoin, but it has to be in a budget neutral manner.
I see. And then there's going to be a separate stockpile of US digital assets. And those assets are most likely going to be what you mentioned in the beginning of the conversation, XRP, ADA, Sol, Ethereum. But also, I mean, those are the ones that are most well-known cryptocurrencies. But I don't know, could we see like a SUI, for instance, which is also US based? And there's a few other chains that are based in the United States. Like, could we see other cryptocurrencies there that have not been mentioned? I mean, personally, I think so. I think that there's a possibility for that as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, okay. So I think it's the US digital asset stockpile. This is also kind of like the strategic Bitcoin reserve is only going to be, at least now, is only going to be made up of the cryptocurrencies that are acquired through forfeiture or like from hacks and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think it's clear. I think they said that they will not be buying any more of these altcoins for this stockpile. So that's going to be pretty static. Now, I saw something. I think I saw David Sachs say like the reason why Trump said XRP, ADA, and Sol were that these were like top. These are like the first 3 top 10 cryptos that he saw on the list or something like that. Of course, and they're US based. So I don't know what that portfolio looks like right now. Their altcoin portfolio looks like right now, but from what I read, I believe they're not going to be purchasing anymore. It'll just be from asset forfeitures.
The other aspect to this, and this is all just speculation right now, is that there's a chance no capital gains tax if you hold in a US-based cryptocurrency longer than a year, which, I think would be kind of huge, right? The incentive there would be to hold on to that token. I mean, yeah, you're going to have people like selling, especially if you've held it for longer than a year, but the overall incentive there, I feel, is to for people to hold the cryptocurrency and not treat it as a quick short term. But
yeah, I've heard some rumors about that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's going to be what's going to be discussed at the the crypto summit that we're going to tonight,
we're
right?
going to.
Right. Yeah. So maybe we can maybe we can play this video there. I just seen so much speculation around that. I don't know what's going to happen there. And, it's just, I just don't know what to believe anymore. I literally don't.
Let's take a step back here, because most of us are reading this as great news, right? And I don't want to be picky. Look, at this point, we'll take anything that we can get, right? And the government adopting cryptocurrency can be a catalyst for mass adoption. However, if you look at technology and government involvement in technology, how much does it evolve, right? You look at the relationships between banks and the government. And I'm not saying the government holds banks back from adopting new technology, but can we still experience the same type of technological innovation boom the more we have the government involved, or am I just overthinking it?
No, I think we've had this conversation before, whether we're talking about the government getting involved with crypto, or just general banks, institutions getting involved in crypto, where Bitcoin was created in spite of, because it wanted to go against the government grain, right? Because of the bailouts that's in 2008, and all the shadiness of kind of the TradFi world. You obviously, on the other side of it is these governments and these institutions have a lot of money. Obviously, regulations play a big part of how technology grows and is adopted. So there's always this kind of catch-22 of getting institutions involved, getting government involved, but somehow trying to maintain that independence and being able to operate outside of those lines that the governments draw.
Also, Mike, should we pay attention to what World Liberty Financial is doing? Like, do we feel like what they're doing is going to impact what's happening within the stockpile or strategic reserve? Because if so, if you look at SUI was just added to World Liberty Financial. They partnered with the SUI network to launch a strategic SUI reserve.
So, okay, we'll get to SUI in a second, but I think this is the issue that, again, we've talked about this before, right? Like, Trump is keeping his promises on the kind of government involvement and regulatory side. No doubt about it, right? Like, he's, this reserve has been talked about for a while now, ever since he took office. Obviously, the people that he's put in place in his cabinet and at the SEC, the CFTC are pro-crypto, and those regulations are going to be way more favorable. But then he's doing all this other bullshit that has been extremely, extremely bad for the space, right? Launching the Trump coin, then Melania launching her meme coin. Then obviously, like, that leads to Libra and Argentina launching that coin. That huge debacle. And you just don't know what World Liberty Financial, like, the role that this plays. It's just like, it's just essentially acquiring tokens, right? And then you've got, like, Eric Trump saying is like, this is a great time to buy ETH, and then that's moving markets. Like, there's just so much muck and, like, just all this entanglement that we've never seen before, and you just don't know. You just don't know, like, what are the ulterior motives for all of this happening, right? And it's not great. It's it sucks. Like, if you would just draw a line and be clear, just work on the regulation side, I think that this market will be much better. Things will be much clearer. I think investors will be much happier. But it just, why can't we have that? We can't have that with this president.
It's like we went from one side of the spectrum to the other, which, for me personally, I much rather be on this side of the spectrum than where we were before. But I hear you, Mike. I mean, yeah, there are some things that, it almost feels like, and it felt this way, right? For many of us, it felt like this was like the peak bull cycle. Like, the things that were happening, like the president launching a meme coin, felt like the top.
Look, Yes, kind of. Um, Look, I don't know. Like, look, especially with all the tariff stuff and the macro uncertainty that he's causing. Look, I'm not going to be the one who says like, oh, look, the last administration towards crypto was terrible, right? But it was like it's kind of like the devil, to a certain extent, right? Where, look, again, I am not going to say that I would rather have, something similar to the last administration. I just think it just like it's on the global, the markets beyond crypto. The level of uncertainty everywhere is so high that they're all impacted and they're not being impacted in a great way. Again, I just go back to like, just stick to the regulation, man. Just like improve the regulations and we'll be good to go,
Yeah. I hear you on all that. Well, let's give Trump a little bit of time to get adjusted. This is just going into his third month of being in office. And obviously last term, he wasn't very pro crypto. So this is all new to us. And it's also very new to him. And what's happening on the tariff side is something different. Again, I do think that he's using that as a negotiation tactic. I don't think that he necessarily is, at the end of the day, going to move forward with all of his plans. I think he's using that as a way to get what he wants for the United States. Now, long term, I see it. Short term, I'm feeling the pain, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
Moving along, Mike.
But let's get back to the World Liberty Financial, right? I know we kind of took it off. Look, we've talked about SWE. I know the SWE team. They've built something, really, they've built, a great ecosystem. Kind of doing it the right way, I think, right? They're just really good builders. And I don't know, like this is kind of a pay to play thing, right? Like there was news that came out a little while ago that World Liberty Financial was approaching teams with an offer, like, buy at least 10 million of these WLFI tokens, with a fee, and then they'll buy the same amount of your token and put you in their token reserve. And then obviously, that kind of pumps the token price, which happened to SWE shortly after the announcement. I think they went up 14%. Is this a partnership? Is it a pay to play partnership? Again, what's the ulterior motive? It is a US based chain. So, that fits into kind of overall this pro America, crypto stance. But, I'm just imagining that this is the pay to play and, it's a way to pump the token price.
The other story is, Mike, TikTok is in the news. So Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian, hope I pronounced that correctly, he's joining bid to acquire TikTok, plans to move social app on chain. That's a very interesting take. We've seen TikTok in the news before. Reddit has been in the news recently as well, but not from the perspective of on chain. This is an interesting take.
Yeah.
What do you make of this?
Yeah. So I think it's right. So, all right. So TikTok has, it was banned in the US for a while and then it came back for a while. I still don't think you can use TikTok in the US right now. So they've been trying to find a US based buyer for TikTok. I mean, everyone loves the app. The algorithm is insane. So Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian has joined the bid with Frank McCourt to potentially acquire TikTok. And look, this to bring it on chain kind of makes sense because Reddit was kind of one of the social networks that had on-chain points. I think they did it on Polygon a couple years ago. I think they rolled it back because there were some, the issues with like securities and whatnot. But, he's obviously had some, obviously, knows a lot about social networking. Reddit's one of the largest social networks in the world. And knows about on-chain, on blockchain. So, if that bid goes through, Ohanian plans to give users control over their data using blockchain tools. I think that's kind of like what we talked about. We always talk about that as the holy grail, as users being able to control their data and potentially earn from it. like I said, he's got that experience integrating blockchain into Reddit. I think this is a kind of interesting play in terms of kind of bringing Web 2, very large social networks in Web 2 on chain. I think it's an interesting development.
I used to think that people that were pro crypto are all for decentralization and equality, but I've kind of realized that everyone's got their own intention. Meaning, when you had Twitter and Jack Dorsey, he's obviously a very pro Bitcoin, but there were some things that he was doing that politically leaned one direction. You can argue Elon Musk is doing the same thing in the other direction. I hear something similar about the Reddit founder. That there was like some censorship that was happening, especially around like political debates. So, I used to be a lot more excited about stuff like this happening, but I don't know, Mike, I don't like when people are pushing buttons based on their own narrative.
There's a lot, there's the ongoing debate on, are you, a social network, are you just a platform, or do you have to hold some responsibility to stop the flow of misinformation, regardless of what, where that misinformation comes from. It is, it's a tough debate. I think you can, it's gone through the courts. It's ongoing. I don't know if there's a right answer, but look, but I also think that if you integrate blockchain into these tools, your data becomes way more portable. Right. So whatever data that, whatever post that you made on one social network, if, obviously you got to think about like what chains it on and all that kind of stuff. But, it becomes more owned by you. It becomes more portable. You can leave that social network and potentially move it to another social network that, I don't know, fits your mindset or whatever it might be. And so it actually gives you more of that optionality to, join or break free from those, that may be politically leaning, a certain way that you don't like, or, be using moderation features that you don't believe in, and then go to another network that you agree with more.
There are to your point, there are a lot of tough questions that we have to ask ourselves, and founders especially. You recently posted an interesting post on LinkedIn about every day with the kinds of decisions founders have to make, especially around raising money, right? You mentioned that on one hand, you want to have a decent runway, you want to be able to build amazing technology. On the other hand, you care about your community and you don't want to dump on them. These are the kinds of things that founders have to consider at all times. And this is actually a really good segue into the next point of our episode, which is you bring to me 3 different projects that have gone through a raise. And so that kind of really stood out to me when you made that post. And on that note as well, during the week of February 23rd, this is the other post you had, there were 38 blockchain startups that raised $540.6 million in funding. It is a huge number, absolutely. And you can kind of see the breakdown here. So despite the market conditions, I mean, projects are still securing funding. Any commentary about this post that you had, Mike?
Yeah, so that was from last week. Look, and there was a huge $200 million round for Figure, so maybe that skewed that number a little bit. But still, if you take that round, it's still over 300 million raised, right? So like, look, I mean, it is a really tough time to fundraise right now, but I mean, it looks like the numbers are going up. You just gotta. I think what we love seeing is in times that are tough to fundraise, kind of like on a macro level, the builders are going to keep building, and they're the ones who are taking a long-term approach, who are building valuable products. They should have no problem fundraising. So, I think the ones that are maybe doing a little more speculative stuff, maybe don't have, like a strong background for what they're building. I mean, those teams don't have traction. Like those teams aren't, it's going to be tough for them to fundraise. But like the ones who are, building for the long term, are iterating, and just continue to build. I think they're gonna they're going to be able to, they're solving problems, they're going to be able to fundraise.
Let's start with Across Protocol. They just recently secured $41 million. What can you tell us about Across?
Yeah, so were spun out of the UMA team, or still part of the UMA team, but they raised 41 million in a token round led by Paradigm, and Bain Capital Crypto, Coinbase, and Multicoin also participated. Obviously, huge names in the crypto space. Look, they're intent-based bridge, right? They facilitate asset transfers between Ethereum and L2s. They use a single liquidity pool, and like I mentioned, the UMA's optimistic oracle. Across doesn't get as much hype as some of the other bridges, but it is a great product, great UX, very efficient. It could be smooth, it's cheap. It could be the best bridge out there, but it's definitely it's within Ethereum, and just overall great products. 41 million is well deserved, and they're going to use that to I think just increase usage of their bridge protocol.
What's interesting is that despite the fact that there's so much vulnerabilities and risks around bridges, bridges continue to thrive. Are they making a lot of technical changes to the way bridging is done? Is that why that there's still a lot of interest from some of these major VCs like Coinbase Ventures, Paradigm, Multicoin Capital? These are all heavy hitters.
Yeah, look, Across is just doing a great job, especially just they're focused within the Ethereum ecosystem, and we all know the L2 ecosystem of Ethereum. Whether you think that's the right way to scale, it's booming, right? You've got huge volumes, you've got a lot of activity across many Ethereum L2s. So, and Across is kind of in the center of that with the core focus in that ecosystem. So they've got a ton of traction, and I think that's really where this interest is coming from.
Moving on, Mike. 00 secures 400 million valuation from top crypto VCs. I believe they secured 28 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yep. 28 million, led by Multicoin and Dragonfly. So one of the co-founders of 00 is Austin Federa. He used to be the chief strategy officer at Solana, and this is going way deep into infrastructure, right? So you're talking about L2s, L1s, L0s like Cosmos and Polkadot. Now you're going even below that with the internet infrastructure. So what 00 is doing is they're building this specialized network of private fiber connections and they're aiming to create an alternative to the public internet that powers all these blockchains. So I think there's a lot of financial institutions that built their own fiber networks to make high frequency trading. So they want the least latency possible, so they can get their orders filled and do that high frequency trading, right? Because it's all about transaction flow, it's all about transaction speed and it's how a lot of those HFT shops make money on those trades. So what 00 is doing is kind of aggregating some of that unused fiber bandwidth and creating a network around that to kind of power these blockchains as a kind of an alternate network to just kind of the public internet that we all use, Verizon Fios or other internet providers. So you're going deep into and building this network, the layer down from the blockchains, or many layers down, and taking on the public internet that powers these blockchains.
Last but not least, Prime Intellect. They secured 15 million.
Yep. Founders Fund, Menlo Ventures, Balaji Srinivasan. It's kind of like Web 2 companies or VCs that make Web 3 investments. So Prime Intellect is just attacking the entire decentralized AI stack. They're creating this peer-to-peer network for compute and intelligence, and just layering the tenets of blockchain on top of it with collective creation, ownership, and access to open source AI. So from the bottom, decentralized compute, to model training, They do a lot of research, and also verifiable AI. So just from the top to bottom of that AI stack, and they've gotten a lot of good traction. So good for them. They're raising a $15 million round.
Mike, despite my technical drawbacks, we got through the episode. Real quick before I let you go, what are you working on at Deep Ventures? How can people get in touch with you?
Man, yeah. So, we're just looking at a lot of deals. We're raising money for our fund. So yeah, hit me up at Twitter at Mike W. Chan, same handle on Telegram, or Mike at deepventures.io.
Perfect. I'll be sure to include those links. Thanks, everyone. And if you found this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it with your friends so more people can get access to real educational material. Thanks a lot.
All right. See you, everyone.